I am super excited to share a very special guest that I have with me today. She has been a part of the Intrapreneur Academy almost since it started, right? And what I want to kind of share with you is just how entrepreneurship can look different for different people, right? Because until you really start to unpack it, which we have here, and if you've been in part with us for a long time, you've seen them. If you're just now joining us, you're probably starting to get the hang, like, wow, these people really speak my language. And my friend, Miss Griffin, is one of those people, right? Not only has she been entrepreneuring for a while, but once she started to kind of capture some language and started to really unpack this for herself, it literally created such a massive amount of awareness for us, right? For the Intrapreneur Academy, for Kaylin and myself as a team. So I want to welcome Mitz, to the show today. As you guys know, a lot of times we'll bring on guests and we'll interview them. And Mitz is probably one of my favorite people in the world. Just she brings so much great energy. Mitz, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. How are you today?
I'm so good, and it's so good to be here with you, Scott. I've missed you, so thank you so much for inviting me on today.
You're welcome. We missed you as well. As everybody can see who's watching, Mitz is a joy. So, Mitz, we've been talking about frameworks, and for the people out there who are like, okay, framework, schmamework, like what is this whole thing about, right? Like, what I loved is like you brought such awesome questions to Intrapreneur Academy, to the apprenticeship program, that like literally unlocked new levels of awareness and depth. One of those was this like idea of commissioning versus codependency. Now, if you would, to put it in your own words, like what was it that like you were kind of rolling around in your mind when that question came up, and like what does that look like for you then versus now?
Yeah, I guess what triggered it was having stepped into an entrepreneurial role. You're working with other people and within a business in a level that I had not experienced before. And because it has that commissioning quality, like I love to think of entrepreneurship as working inside someone else's business as if it were your own. Like you carry that heart and the vision, and you legitimately care and can stay up at night worrying about, oh gosh, this piece is not working, and racking your brains as if it was your own, even though you're sharing the load, you're carrying the load with another. And in that, I found wow, some emotions got stirred. Honestly, I think like any relationship and anywhere you in your heart have decided you're going to commit and bring to the table everything that you are, things get triggered. You have to navigate conflict or ideas or differences in a healthy way. And sometimes that just begs a question of, in this setting, how do I really go about it, especially in this work setting that might be outside of friendships or outside of, kind of more intimate relationships we're used to? This is a professional setting. So going deeper into that with you guys was really instrumental in helping me navigate my feelings, and I felt helping me to grow up in this space and kind of mature to be an entrepreneur who could really add value, but add value in a way that is good. So that's what kind of triggered that exploration for me.
Yeah, man, I love when you said like you stay up at night, right? Because it's such a simple phrase, but it conveys so much, right? It conveys so much. And there's this like fine line between a healthy amount of care and an unhealthy amount of care, right? So maybe talk to us a little bit about that. Like when you say stayed up, like what do you attribute that to as an entrepreneur?
I guess it is having that heart for the business, and you get to see as well. So you get to join in with the vision of an enterprise, and when you can see the potential, and I think entrepreneurs, are visionaries. They can kind of see ahead and imagine what's possible and all the good things that could happen. There is that deep sense of, gosh, let's do it. And I think there's a drive entrepreneurs have to get the job done. So there's a big drive to really achieve some of the goals and the landmarks and get the business to where you know it can be, and to do it, to do it well and fast as well. So I think for me, it was tied into really getting results, and not just being happy with, we're trying this out and we'll just see where it goes, but having that belief of, this is really good and it's going to create a lot of impact. Let's really do this. Let's really make our goals. So I think that for me, that's part of what triggered I suppose, the thinking outside of work hours, and in the dead of night.
The reason I think that's so powerful is because there's inevitably going to be entrepreneurs, business owners, founders who are listening to this and they're scratching their head a little bit. They're thinking to themselves, hold on, what? Like, there are people out there that care about this. They think about this after they leave. When they clock out or not responsible anymore, like, this is something that they care about. This is new. This is exciting. How do I get more of those people? And how can I, as a founder or as an entrepreneur, a CEO, right? As you can see, we use a variety of different language because each person calls himself something a little bit different. But it's like, how do we get more of those folks? Like, if you were to say, what is it about entrepreneurs that could be so attractive to a business owner, for example?
Hmm. Oh, these are such great questions, Scott. You always ask great questions. Um, so I think one of the things that you shared that really resonated with me was this idea of an entrepreneur being able to clone themselves and being able to take time out and actually have somebody they trust enough to, even for a short period of time, just ensure that things don't go to pot. um, I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. No, I do. Because I think what I'm hearing you say is like, and again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so keep me honest. But here you're saying is like staying up at night, caring about this thing. There's a level of excellence that you have. So like if I was brand new to this group, I might ask myself, well, which of these things characterizes me, right? Do I think that way? Or if I'm an aspiring entrepreneur, right? Or as an entrepreneur, I'm thinking to myself, do people really think like this? And then you're like, wow, they're outcome driven, they have a level of excellence, and they care. And I essentially get me as the entrepreneur, but inside the organization, which I mean, you know my position on this. I think this is the most fantastic partnership that could be. So, all that being said, when it comes to like this dance, and I remember when you asked the question, you're like, "Hey, I forget exactly how it was stated, but I'm going to paraphrase it. But it was essentially like, hey, I think I do this commissioning thing pretty well, but sometimes it can feel kind of unhealthy. Like I'm sacrificing myself for the purpose of the vision, and it's not being reciprocated. So maybe correct my language a little bit if I put you, but like, because that's real too, right? I don't want to just like shine entrepreneurship as this like amazing thing that's everybody's key to success, because it could take an unhealthy turn, and that's kind of was the nature of your question. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely, because it is this flow, and I love how you describe it as a dance because it can feel that way. Um, and like with any relationships, there can be different seasons, and sometimes you might feel a lot of synergy and really in sync, and sometimes you might have a completely different viewpoint of the next best steps. Um, and as an entrepreneur, you're still an entrepreneur, so you still, you're there co-laboring with the entrepreneur, but it is their business. And at the end of the day, it's their responsibility. They are the ones who initiated everything, and a lot of that weight, they still carry. But as entrepreneurs, yeah, it is this flow where sometimes, I don't know if there are particular personality types that lend themselves well to entrepreneurship, or some things you might think are a weakness, but when you flip it around are a strength. But I get the impression that entrepreneurs tend to be passionate people, and sometimes you have to rein that in, and know, kind of adjust yourself according to not just the entrepreneur, but also the team that you get to work with as well, and to meld with team, and not stick out, but at the same time be able to support and lead where needed. So it's this kind of duality, and it is this flow. And I think part of it is learning how to relate maturely and to accept that sometimes, you might be out there in front pioneering, and sometimes you might be way at the back supporting team and holding other things up in the kind of shadows or unseen. And I guess it's growing in wisdom to know kind of where to place yourself at what time, and to know that things change and evolve, and to be flexible enough to really serve in a way that supports everyone best.
That's good. So good, Miss. I was at a conference. It was a men's, like a fatherhood conference last week, and they were talking about boundaries. And one of the guys, and it was boundaries with parenting and relationships. But when you mentioned the relationships part, it kind of triggered this question. And it was, he defined boundaries in three different ways. And first of all, I found it very interesting that the experts in boundaries have a difficult time defining what boundaries are. So if anybody else is feeling like, oh man, like I just don't have it figured out yet, don't worry, nobody else does either. But he defined it in three different buckets. He's like, there's codependent, right? Where it's like, it's unhealthy, right? There's independent, also unhealthy. And then there's interdependent, right? And the codependent, I'm going to try to my best, but it's like codependent means I need you to feel good about what I do, and I'll only listen to what you have to say. Whereas independent is I know what to do, don't ask me, right? Whereas independent and an interdependent is this weave, it's this dance. It requires some of you and some of me. It feels like it takes longer because there's lots of communication, but it's the only way to be. And if we kind of reframe it from a parenting perspective, it's like, well, shoot, codependence is me writing my son's research paper rather than him maybe not doing so well and feeling the weight of him not finishing that research paper with the quality that he was capable of. But if I do it for him, he doesn't learn the lesson, right? So inside here, we kind of call it commissioning, which is more of the interdependency, versus codependency, where it's just like, man, I'm just going to listen to what you have to say. I'm not going to think for myself. I'm just going to do. And the beauty of intrapreneurship is we are bringing a unique perspective. Like, we're not second-class citizens in this corporate organization that would suggest, it has to be a certain way. Because what your description of sometimes you're out front leading and pioneering, and sometimes you're behind everybody, like supporting team, is such a beautiful articulation of what that looks like. Yet, if you look at the traditional organization, nobody really wants to be the person behind everyone else. So how do we navigate? Like, how do you navigate that part? Because it perceptively is you're less valuable than others. Like, that's kind of the vibe that's given off.
Yeah, I think in entrepreneurship, and something that I think you guys unpack so well, is just the real perspective and vision of what entrepreneuring is. And it's when you look at the mission, and that's where you tie your success to. It's not, to be seen, it's not to be recognized. It's actually, for this greater good, this mission that we're working on. And there's that in you to really do whatever it takes. And sometimes, that could look like a variety of things, but because it actually contributes to the success of a venture, it's all good because this is part of the journey. And I think one of the things I love is it opens up the conversation too with entrepreneurs to talk about these deeper things, which perhaps in a business setting, apart from coaches and consultants with their clients, maybe business owners don't have the opportunity to navigate this or articulate it with a team member. But an entrepreneur, enables a space where that conversation can be safe and can actually be held. And I think that is really valuable.
Man, that was so well said. It's you're describing an advocate, right? A confidant, but like the shared mission was so evident in your explanation of that. Like, really does define that co-missioning in a way that's deeper. It's more meaningful. It's more responsible. It's more accountable to each other. Yes, but that's secondary. It's to the mission first, right? So because we are counterparts, and I really believe this in my soul, like, entrepreneurs have such a rough go to get their vision to become a reality, right? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter what you do. It could be selling, it could be being an almond milk alternative or whatever, right? It doesn't matter what you're doing. They need somebody else because we just can't do these things alone. I don't believe that we are meant to do them alone anyway. But like, there is this reality that the leader of the company can't be super open and vulnerable to everybody because it does create some difficult interpersonal dynamics with the people that are his or her employees, right? So you have this confidant, this like commissioner to help fulfill on those things in ways that when one person is great at something, staying out in front, being the pioneer, right? And you can partner with somebody like that as an entrepreneur, and you can see their vision so clearly and then implement that, build it, create it, rally around it, get others to rally, lead it. Man, that's like the ideal, right? That's the ideal kind of relationship. So I appreciate you bringing that to light. So I'll lighten up on my last question because I know we've been super deep so far, Mitch, which I deeply appreciate. But maybe speak to, like, as a final question, speak to the person who's like, okay, so how do I start? What do I do? How do I intrapreneur, right? Like, what did that look like for you, and what advice would you give to others?
For me, it was seeing how someone else's venture was working and going and believing in it, and then just actually reaching out and saying, hey, is there anything I can do to help? And especially when entrepreneurs are in the kind of stages of launch, there's a lot of scope where they need help. And often just putting yourself forward and helping wherever you can for just for the sake of helping, for me, I found was the kind of way to open up a deeper relationship and also build trust. I think it is really tough being a entrepreneur these days. Like the business world, there's so much pressure to look successful, however that might be, or to be a great leader, however that might be, that I think it's really hard to face like really important questions. But when you just volunteer and step in and support and help, you actually bridge that gap of building trust, and they get to know you and they get to see your heart behind things that's independent of, I don't know, status or money or whatever else might be considered driving factors. And then to just pursue it and see what happens, because it's co-created. You bring all of you to the table. You don't know what that means. You don't know what that looks like. They don't know what that looks like. So part of it is to be able to go on this adventure together. And it's good. It's all good. We'll just explore what's possible, and see what opens up. And if it works well and there is a synergy, more and more things will come from that. So I don't know if that's helpful.
Well, I love it. I mean, I didn't ask you to say that answer, right? But it's like, as we've unpacked some of these trainings over the last, several months, one of the frameworks that we went through was the land and expand. And like, you gave a wonderful explanation of what that looks like from like a relational perspective, where it's like you start where you can because you believe in something, right? It could be the person, it could be the vision, it could be both. Chances are it's a little bit of both. And then you start where you can, right? But then all of a sudden, naturally, and it rarely is it forced, you're going to expand into other areas. And this, y'all, like, as you think about what Mitch just said, this is why it's so important for that connection, but also the clear expectations of co-missioning, that you, as the entrepreneur, don't become like the one that has to carry it all. Okay? Because that's where things can get they can get unhealthy. You need to navigate that, because your entrepreneurs are going to see a one-stop shop to a certain extent, especially in that launch phase. Because when you've got little to nothing, somebody with a diverse skill set is just about the dreamiest dream you could dream, right? And that's a Mitz, right? That's a Scott. That's a lot of you here inside of Intrapreneur Academy. So Mitz, I know we've gone a little bit over time, but thank you. Thank you for taking the time. We honor you. We're so grateful to have you in the community, and just so grateful for your answers today. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, and I'm so grateful for what you guys do. Like, you're pioneering the way, and I'm just so honored to be connected in this way. So thank you.
I love that. Thank you, Mitz. We'll see you soon. Take care. Oh my goodness, y'all! This is what it's all about, right? This understanding how people have navigated similar waters, understanding how to navigate, corporate environments and relationships. That's the heart of the Intrapreneur Academy. It's not just about frameworks. Okay, it's not just about frameworks. That's on the outside. Frameworks help. Frameworks help you understand where you're at, right? Maps help you understand where you're at in relation to other things. That's what a framework is. But what Mitz described is that inner part, the inner entrepreneur, the one where you're having to navigate relationships, and you're having to navigate who does what, and how do I not give so much of myself so that I feel worn out or run through, right? You don't want to be the buffet all the time, although your skill set lends itself to be diverse and effective and excellent. So I just want to honor all you here inside of Intrapreneur Academy. This is, again, another perfect example of why entrepreneurship is the way to best serve your clients. Land, expand, launch, grow, and scale. All with your clients, bigger impact, bigger income, and just a level of fulfillment that, I think most people would find really hard to find anywhere else. So, until next week, love you guys. We will see you soon. Take care.